Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Saturday night edition of LFC Transfer Room. It's getting really interesting in the Euros. Actually, we're on obviously for 7 o'clock because we're all waiting to see whether Belgium can bounce back against the Romanians at 8 o'clock. So again, we will be finished before then. So this is a little bit of a warm up before that big bumper clash, and I'm joined tonight by Dan and Colin, who's gone AWOL. So Dan and I are going to be chewing your ears off until Colin joins the Three Musketeers. But Dan and I were just saying off stream that it's been a very long time since Dan and I have done a stream together, and perhaps the first time on the Saturday Night Club as well. Dan, is that right?
I think so. When they swapped up the schedule, though, it has been a while. But yeah, no, it's happy to be on. Also, I lied. I was avoiding all the quizzes when we had the quiz hour. I didn't need more quizzes in my life. I already had a grade too many as is.
Yeah. The Saturday night quizzes, they'll come back when the season starts heating up a little bit. But we're just so bogged down with so much transfer news. It's taken a little bit of a back seat, really, the Saturday night quiz. But that will make an appearance. And Dan, you've definitely now got to come on after you've said that.
Oh God, no! Please don't! I don't need to make a fool of myself in front of the commenters more than I already do.
Well, I get that. I'm get the good job because I'm just the quiz master, so I know the answers because I have to research them. So I'm all right. But let's get straight down to it then, because Daryl's already mentioned in the chat, is the Calafiori news true? And as you can see from our title, Calafiori for 23 million. Liverpool have accelerated talks to sign Riccardo Calafiori, who is 22, to sign them this summer. Now, this is from a source called Corriere Bologna. Okay. I'm not sure how reliable the sources are. Like always, I think there's only really Ornstein who's that reliable when it comes to breaking news, if I'm completely honest. But that being said, there has been discussions between Liverpool and Bologna, who are said to be looking to let him go for a bargain fee of around 23 million. However, I, along with everybody else, would fully expect for that fee to go up after the Euros he's having, Dan, don't you?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, we'll just have to see who else is in the market for Calafiori. I know that Juventus were trying to get him, but because they got Thiago Motta as their new manager. But Bologna were very upset with, I think, the negotiation tactics Juventus were doing because they don't really have a lot of cash right now. Though I don't know if they bought Douglas Luiz or is Douglas Luiz going somewhere else right now, but Juventus don't really have a lot of cash on hand. So I think they were trying to do some sort of like weird transfer that really pissed them off. Yeah, I don't expect to be that low, between 1.3 million, unless he has like a release clause we don't know about, or he has a special release clause for Bologna where it's like in Serie A, it's 40 million euros. And then if it's outside, it's like, what is that, like 25 million euros, give or take. It is possible. I mean, we'll have to see how Italy do. I don't think Calafiori's been a solid player for Italy. I don't think he's been the best center back. I think obviously it's Bastoni who's the best Italian center back right now, but Inter's not going to sell him less than 80 million. And there's not really a center back on the market right now that's worth 80 million, though I know that some people would disagree and say it's Lenny Yoro. If you think about what an 80 million pound center back would give you, probably not. But if they get Calafiori for less than 40 mil or whatever we got Konaté for, I think Konaté was like 36. Like that's great, and he's left-footed. He's played left back. I think he's 6'2", like 1.85 meters, if I believe so. So he's not short. He's developed. He's a good footballer. He's playing in a 4-2-3-1, so he's not a back three center back. If you look at all the things that usually a Michael Edwards type signing or a Richard Hughes type signing would be, someone who's talented, has a high ceiling. Maybe their floor is not there yet, but can definitely develop very quickly. I think Calafiori, this is probably one to watch. I think it's the most likely center back to watch right now if Euro does not happen.
And I mean, I've been impressed with seeing him as well, to be fair. And he does have a high ceiling at 22 years old. We haven't had this discussion, Dan, but it's quite clear that Liverpool need a centre-back, right? So who would be realistically your choice to bring in?
Realism in terms of price, or realism in terms of what do I think that they'll actually who they'll actually get? Because I think Calafiori is probably the one who's on the list, does make the most sense. I don't think they're signing anybody from Feyenoord. Schürrle, I know Per Schürrle from Torino they were looking at last year. I don't think that's happening because I just don't think he has the pace for it. I mean, Calafiori is probably the one where you can make the easiest sell to, because obviously right now the four center backs at Liverpool are Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez, even though some people would disagree with Joe Gomez, Konate, and Jerome Kwanzaa. So any new center back you sign is going to say, where are my games? And if you're left-footed, it makes the most sense, because you can say, well, your games are going to be either in Virgil van Dijk's position, and we'll just not play Virgil van Dijk as much, which I would be shocked if Virgil played more than 30 games cumulatively last year, because I think that what we've seen with Virgil at the age he's at, but also getting the best out of him, is that if you want the best Virgil, you have to kind of pick and choose Virgil's moments, similar to Konate. But I think Konate at times was managed out of form, so he was never able to get in good form, and then he had his bad games like we had against Everton. And you can kind of see he kind of stagnated a bit, but I think that was more the fact that he just didn't get as many games as Kwanzaa. I think Calafiori is probably the most realistic. There's that Hungarian lad at Bournemouth who I think is really good. But again, he played in a system, but Bournemouth are not going to sell for anything less than like £50 million. So probably not a realistic price tag. And I think Calafiori is probably the better prospect. That's who I would say. Obviously, the dream signing is Lenny Yoro, just because he's 18, he's fast, he's 6'3". His ball playing ability is not that great, but again, that's something you can coach. And I would say that, any sort of player right now, if they're not a great progressive passer, that's fine. That's why Arne Slot exists. That's why Klopp existed. They can coach and make them better. But I think right now, Calafiori is probably just the most ideal. Ignacio is just not going to happen. I know I joke with Steven all the time. He's a back three center back. He only has ever played in a back three. He never really plays left back. I don't want to play him in a back two. It'd be a Connor Cody situation all over again.
Yeah, and Daryl mentioned the only problem is Italians don't tend to hit it off at Liverpool. We have only signed a few, so that is a small field, but Aquilani, Barini, Balotelli into centre. And in fact, there's only one Italian. It's not a quiz night tonight. I'll give you the answer. Only one Italian to ever win the Premier League, and that was Mario Balotelli. When he was
for
Manchester City. Yeah, which is crazy. Only one Italian's ever won the Premier League, which is crazy. But yeah, obviously not for Liverpool, unfortunately. Didn't quite happen for Mario at Liverpool, but it did happen for him at City. Colin, nice of you to join us.
Sorry to turn up so late.
That's all right. These things happen. Listen, I've been known to turn up half hour late because of my takeaway orders not coming. So don't worry about it at all. We're just jumping in really, and we're going to change topic because we do need to talk about one Johan Bakayoko. Liverpool and Borussia Dortmund are talking to the PSV management for Johan Bakayoko, who is 21 years old, who is almost certain of leaving this summer. Liverpool are the most likely to pay his £42 million fee, which I think is quite low, as Dortmund are not known for paying much for their talents. Now, Colin, I'm going to come straight to you, bounce straight in here. Thoughts about that deal? £42 million Bakayoko, is that money going to be well spent? And he does look like he's going to be off fairly soon, doesn't he?
It does. And I think that one of the things that is kind of striking to me, and maybe this is just an overall market correction, is that I think a lot of these guys are very reasonably priced for what I think their potential talent is, and what their potential ceiling is. So, for 42 million pound or 47 million pound,
42.
It's really reasonable, I think. And it can be seen kind of across the board with some of these guys that not just we're chasing after, but Nico Williams is like 10 million more pound. I think those are very reasonable prices for players who I think are going to be impact players at the highest level for the next 10 years, 7 years. So to me, that's money very well spent, I think.
And the source comes from Eindhoven's Dagblad, which obviously is a Eindhoven-based press, and that's where obviously this rumor comes from. And Bakayoko is a player I think who's, again, like we were saying about Calafiori, is he's someone with such a high ceiling at such a young age, and it is a player that Liverpool perhaps would look for. If we look back over the Salah and Mane deals, well, actually, whilst he's not a well-known star, neither was Salah and Mane at the time. It's not massive money. Neither was Mane and Salah at the time. And he's got youth on his side as well. Dan, we, again, looking at the raiding of the Dutch league, it has worked well in Cody Gakpo, I think. I still think that Gakpo will be a success at Liverpool. Do you feel that same way about Johan Bakayoko?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bakayoko is kind of the next one to come out of the Dutch league. I do think it's fascinating because a player that was highly rated like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, Herving Lozano is now back in the Dutch league after not really succeeding outside of it. The Dutch league right now does seem like the one where a lot of talents are coming out of. Like if you look at the markets, like the French market in the early 2010s, the German market maybe 4 years ago when like Chelsea got Havertz and Werner and everyone was raving about all the German players. I think that's also when Klopp really wanted Julian Brandt. I think right now the Dutch league is kind of seen as the in vogue league to buy players from. I mean, Arsenal bought, what was it, Jurien Timber from, as well, who I blew his knee out, but he should be fit for this summer. I mean, yeah, I think it's the one where the valuations are very reason. I think what Colin mentioned is very accurate, that there a lot of prices are very quote unquote reasonable, but I think that's more a reflection of the general deflationary market right now. It's hard to borrow money, so high prices are just not going to be there. A lot of clubs don't have a lot of cash on hand, so cash flow is a real issue. So clubs that may have a lot of spending power, i.e. Liverpool, who we bring in a lot of revenue. We're one of the top revenue clubs in the world. Somehow still behind Manchester City. I don't know what they're doing over Manchester City, but whatever they're doing, that marketing firm works very hard, and I salute them. They do a very good job selling that club very well. I think Bakayoko is probably, again, I know we asked this for Calafiori, but I think Bakayoko is kind of the right type of player. He's a dribbler. He's not. He is a very dribbly boy. As I like to say on the Athletic, JJ Bullock's on the Athletic. He is a very dribbly player, but he is someone that is very much on the up and up. He's left-footed. He's 5'10", so he's not small. He is very right wing. He is very like, if you're buying Johan Bakayoko, that is essentially the Salah right wing left-footed replacement if you want to play that way. And I think he's probably the most gettable. It's the easiest sell out of all of them if you're going to bring in a 6 forward. I don't think Williams or Kvaratskhelia or I think Williams, the problem isn't the release clause, it's his wage. He's going to demand $250 a week, and I just don't think you pay out for Nico Williams, who's essentially a Luis Diaz type player that's going to give you like 6-7 goals a year and be stretched to play, but I don't know you're going to get anything else from him. And with who I mentioned, Kvaratskhelia, he's very left mid. That's essentially he's just Luis Diaz again. He's another version of Luis Diaz, but again, way more expensive. So do you want a more expensive version of Luis Diaz, who maybe 3 or 4 years younger, or do you want to get the Salah replacement, which we don't really have made at the moment? So I think Bakayoko is the most reasonable. Stop bringing the cat. We have a guest appearance from my cat.
That is a decent cat as well.
Yeah, this is Niall. This is Nunu. Say hi, Nunu. He's a sweet boy. I didn't mean to interrupt your flow. Colin, what are your thoughts about my Bakayoko well thought out
and
opinion?
The cat.
And the cat too. Nunu, say hi. You've seen Nunu before. He's just bigger now.
Many a time. Love cats. Big animal person. I will not put my cat in here because she will try to stand in front of the kid. She'll just stand right here. As you were talking through that, all I can think of is in our group chat, Carter just talking about buying more wingers and a litany of people just sending the meme. Don't make me point at the sign.
Yeah, and for the context is pointing at the sign is we don't need left wingers. We don't need left wingers.
Which I fully agree with if you still have Luis Diaz. Now, if you're selling Diaz, then yeah, you might need to buy one. Or I think Richard might agree with this. I think Gakpo would be a great left winger. I mean, in the sense of starting on the left and becoming inside forward.
Right. I think you could, if one of them goes, I think you could do. You definitely have to get another one for the overall numbers. But I don't think that at that point, then it has to be a left winger. I think that there are enough people who I think Gakpo's a perfect example. I think that's clearly his best position based on the amount that he's played there and the performances he's put in. So if you're going to continue to try to force him to play in a position that is not going to be his preferred, like, I don't know what the point is. And I think it's probably a higher likelihood that with the new manager, with the manager being of the same nationality, that he's probably going to get to play more in the position that he wants to anyways. So I really, really, really like Nico Williams a lot. I'm very high on him. But you make a compelling point, which is like, you're getting younger, but you're going to have to pay 5 times the wages or 4 times the wages at least for him. And at that point, then it's like, where do you go from there? Like, is he realistically going to be someone who you're going to pay in 4 years time, 3 years time? You're going to up their wages again to 350? Like that seems a little excessive. So I think I continue to think that the Bakayoko and the Mbeumo links make the most sense for what we're looking for without anybody going out the door.
Yeah, and talking about Nico Williams, the reason why people are discussing Nico Williams and the reason why he's a topic, on our header is because there were rumours coming out about Nico Williams, which was odd in itself because he only signed a new deal at Athletic a couple of weeks ago. And he himself says, I've just signed a new deal at Athletic a few weeks ago. I feel very good there. It's very strange to receive questions on my future. And, again, it came from Diario AS. That's where the source came from, who reported Liverpool are one of the main clubs pressing for Nico Williams. Barcelona are an unattainable dream because of how much the operation would cost. So essentially, it's one of those that I can't see it happening. I do think a Bakayoko would be a better fit because we need a right winger. We don't need a left winger. Point to the sign again. And, hopefully we'll see what he's like tonight. He's on the bench for Belgium tonight, and hopefully we'll see what he's like, because I thought he was all right when he came on the other day as well. Right, centre-back talk then, because there are people asking about centre-back interests. Really bad news for Baby Leo's lyrics. Any CDM interests? I'm afraid not today. As soon as we have those, obviously every single night at 7 o'clock while the Euros are on, we will be bringing all of the transfer news and rumours to you. But no, unfortunately, no CDMs. Okay, so moving on then to the centre-back. Yoro, we mentioned earlier, Dan. A lot of it depends what it looks like is his relationship / situation with Real Madrid. It looks like he's destined to go to Madrid, if I'm completely honest, whether a deal is struck this season or he goes next season. It certainly looks like he is Madrid bound, but Liverpool, they may as well go for him. This lad is sensational. He's 18 years old. He is a centre-back, and he's on, I think, 6K a week at Lille, which is peanuts. So again, it just makes absolute complete sense. Now, even Willie has said, again, Madrid or PSG. Can see both of them, if I'm honest. Again, PSG won't have to break their wage bank. I know that they're under the cosh financially as well, but it wouldn't actually break their bank to go in for a Euro either. We mentioned centre-backs earlier, Dan, and you mentioned Inacio probably not likely. What do you think about Yoro? Is he more likely in your eyes, or is he still Madrid bound?
I think so. I think we have to. I think it's most likely that Euro goes to Madrid, and I think Liverpool being there in the conversation is mostly there to be opportunistic, because obviously Euro can change his mind. Going back to what would it be now? 6 years? Oh God, I'm getting old. 6 years ago, when Alisson was essentially destined to go to Madrid, but they weren't going to spend the money for him from Roma, and lo and behold, everyone's like, "Oh, we're going to lose Alisson." Danny Ward was going to start as our goalkeeper, and Liverpool fans were being very rational and keeping their heads very clear and not getting caught up in the moment. For a goalkeeper rumor over the summer. Actually, I even think people were saying we should go get Jan Oblak, who's still at Atletico Madrid. I think this is going to be more of the. I'm not trying to say the Bellingham Chouamini, because I don't think Euro's that level yet, but he obviously has potential. I think it's going to be more of that, where either Madrid end up getting a 45-50 mil deal and put him on massive wages, or they just wait next summer and they just sign him on a massive bumper contract like they did with Mbappe. I think it's important though for Madrid that most people realize that Real Madrid's squad right now is like, yes, it has a lot of really talented players. I mean, obviously we know Tchouaméni and Bellingham, but it's not the deepest squad, especially at center back. They essentially had Tchouaméni playing center back for most of the year, and they're very, very threadbare in most of the positions. Like they don't even. I was looking at it right now. So their center backs right now are Militao, Nacho, who's leaving, and I believe it's Rudiger. And they need to, and Ferdinand Mendy's now down to like the last like year or 2 years of his contract. So, and he's kind of crap. So they're trying to sign Alphonso Davies for left back because they need a left back. We know they're probably going to be interested in Trent, depending on how Trent's contract negotiations go. And David Alaba is old, and they had him playing center back, even though he was kind of a left back, center back DM. He's got that weird play as well. So they really need like a cornerstone center back. So it's the easiest sell to Yoro because you can tell Lenny Yoro, hey, we'll get you. You'll start day one next to Rudiger or Militao. I think he'll probably start next to Militao because I believe he's a right-footed center back. I think Rudiger's left-sided center back, if I believe, off the top of my head. But that's where I think that transfer is probably going to end up with Yoro at Madrid. Now it could change because there are still plenty of good center backs on the market, and Madrid have lost out on players before. They've also made mistakes. They bought Luka Jovic back in the day from Frankfurt, didn't work out. They bought Martin Odegaard, didn't work out. You know, they buy Lenny Yoro. It doesn't mean Madrid are just going to be the dominant force in Europe for the next 20 years. Though it kind of feels that way just because of how everything's felt since 2017. Or the Champions League in 2017-18. Yeah, I think this ends up with him going to Madrid either on a free or this transfer. But that doesn't mean that Liverpool should not still be in the conversation. And I think they should continue to be in the conversation until Euro is, you get the here we go from Fabrizio Romano. Again, like Caicedo transfer of the summer, you know, I think that's a good sign that, like, you know, you're never out of a transfer until like the other club coughs up the money.
Yeah, and you know, with Yoro, he is worth that time and investment. And even if it doesn't work out this time, sometimes, you know, if it doesn't work out somewhere else, and there was that interest before, Liverpool might renew the interest, and the player goes, "Oh yeah, they were interested before. I better give them a go." You know, or I think that, you know, I feel valued there, and I would feel valued there. Colin, again, if it's not going to be Yoro, who could it be? You know, because we're surely in for a centre back. You know, surely we're in for a centre-back this summer because Konate can't be relied upon for fitness. Quansah has done well, but he is still young. We need a successor for Van Dijk, and obviously Matip has gone on a free as well. And Joe Gomez I think he'll cover more of the Andy Robertson left-hand flank, really, and rotate because I can see Tsimikas going. So we do need a centre-back, don't we? And who do you think that centre-back could be? And everyone else in the chats, please do put in your centre backs as well.
So there's obviously the links to Calafiori, which have seemingly popped up since only the start of the Euros, which is, you know, totally reasonable. It's when the majority of us would have seen. I don't know so many people that were watching Bologna games, you know, regularly. And you guys have kind of already litigated that. Outside of that, to me, this is the like co-trickiest position I think in world football at the moment, which is like young center back who I just think the profile is very difficult for who it might be. You need someone who is young, someone who's not going to command mega wages, and someone who's going to be happy enough to not start every game at left center back, and who's going to be happy to learn and take their time behind Roger. Obviously, they're going to play games. It's just not going to be Champions League games or, you know, the highest profile Premier League games at the moment. Like, it's just not what they're in for currently. You know, barring an injury, knock on wood, please. I don't think that there are so many people who really fit all of those. You know, obviously there's all of the technical things that you need out of someone. You know, when I hopped on, I heard Dan, you know, kind of going over the specifics of like someone, you know, of what you really want in those center backs. But I I think finding who that really is and who that player profile is really, really tricky. I don't know that I have a good answer outside of the kind of two links that we've had kind of consistently so far this summer.
I think there's one, the Irish center back at Lyon. I know Steven's been very high on him. He's been like their best player, and Lyon were crap this year. I don't want Chechery. Give me the Irish 6'4" center back lad. I think if there's any going to be center back signing, it's not going to be any of these big ones. And I think the thing is about Calafiori is that he's kind of that in between, where he's not the big picture one. He's not the Euro. He's not the Chouameni. He's not the Bellingham. He's not the picture perfect one of the summer, but he is good. He is 6'2". He's not a small lad. Like he's played it
left-footed.
He's in the profile you want. He's playing in a system that's very similar to Arne Slot and what Klopp done with Thiago Motta. There is that issue of pace, where in the Premier League, pace is king. Like we've seen that with how certain players had peaks and troughs throughout the year. Szoboszlai started out hot. And then as the year went on, he became more consistent. Again, the pace, the mental pace, the emotional, the physical pace of the game it's just not seen anywhere else in the world. I know someone mentioned Diomande from Sporting. My only issue with Diomande is back three. It's the back three thing. Like when you play in a back three, you play much different than you play in a back two. I think any center back right now that's playing a back three is probably not going to get bought by Liverpool, especially with Arne Slot being the coach. Hughes is not going to go to Slot and say, here's a guy who's only played in a back three, never played a back two in his life. And he plays in the middle of a back three too. He's not even the left or right side where you can just you can kind of translate it a bit, like with Ignacio, where you can kind of make that similar argument. That's like, oh, you're just playing a left sided center back and you just play you just play like you normally do. You just don't have the center center back. But Diomande, I don't think anybody in a back three is going to be bought. They may be on the list. There might be rumors. We might see reports of them talking to agents, but I don't think they're going to get bought.
My Konate comment about fitness, just to put it into context, in the past 2 seasons, he has missed 23 games for Liverpool. So again, for me, for context, that's why I generally think you can't rely on Konate. If you could, him and Van Dijk are probably the best centre-back pairing in the Premiership. But for me, Konate, you've got to have a backup plan for him, and that probably is Gerald Quanta on that right hand side. If I'm completely honest, I think that he's been fantastic when he comes in, but we do need another centre back as well. I'll tell you what else has been quite quiet when we're looking at the rumours. And again, I know that the Euros are going on, but there are clubs still doing bits of business. It's not quite boomed yet, I don't think, and with PSR or whatever it's called coming into play, clubs are going to have to be a lot more stringent in what they're spending. But again, this, central defensive midfield, there's not really a lot of good profiles there either. Considering we were all crying out for one last year. Colin mentioned the Caicedo debacle, which it was. There doesn't seem to be very many players actually out there at the moment who, like Dan said, we are consistently linked to. I remember the Thiago summer. Every day there was a report about Thiago until we signed him. It doesn't seem to be that much in terms of transfers. Now, I don't know whether that's because Slot's just come in and he's obviously just done his first interview. I don't know whether it's because the Euros are on as well, but there's not really a lot outgoing either. We saw in the Daily Mirror, again, not that reliable if I'm honest. Sorry for anyone listening from the Daily Mirror, saying that Guhivim Kelleher might go for 40 million. Now, that's actually probably the most sense that, anyone's spoken about Kelleher. But again, in terms of outgoings, we're not hearing anything. And that's, I think, the same for quite a lot of clubs, apart from the clubs, the Villas, the Chelseas, the Evertons and Juventuses, who are basically just trading off their youth and buying their youth and doing a little bit of a merry-go-round to get around the financial restrictions. The cynic that I am, that seems to be what's happening. I mean, Colin, is there anything so far this summer that has taken your interest of, actually, I really hope that's true. I really hope that player comes to us, or I really hope that there are legs in that rumor?
This is the other position where I think that I see it as the market to me has the same deficiencies at center back as it does at central defensive midfielder, which is like I think there's a big gap in like 23 to 26-year-olds who are proven and who like just fit a profile, and you can get them for for 25 to 45 million pound, and just are gonna, exactly what you're getting, exactly what their ceiling is and what what they can do for you. I think that there's like a lot of like guys who are pushing on and getting a bit older who Liverpool will not be interested in just because of that. And then I think there's a lot of guys who are 20 to 24 years old, have not had a ton of seasons in top teams, and just are not proven. These are less bankable player profiles to me. So I think the only one that makes concrete sense based on a bit of like really like trying to understand what we're gonna want is Vifer. Is that Mats Vifer?
You're talking about from Feyenoord?
Yeah.
But they're not going to sign anybody from Feyenoord.
A Dutch pronunciation is not not in my native tongue. I don't.
Mats Vifer, yeah, Vifer. Well, Vifer would be the German pronunciation, but I'm sure it's probably close. Vifer. Tomato.
Sue me. I don't think it is always a bad. I don't think it's always a bad idea, and I don't think it's inherently a good idea one way or the other to just be purchasing someone that is from a club that like where you were from. I just think in terms of profile, in terms of trying to get someone who is going to understand the differences in the way that the central midfield are going to play versus what it is that is agreed. Like that was the only one that like really has struck my eye about like, yeah, this like makes definite sense. It's the right profile. It's the right price. Outside of that, I have no good feelings about like concrete feelings about people who we've been kind of named. I honestly believe that like if we are going to get someone in that position, it's going to be a 20-year-old, it's going to be a 22-year-old, it's going to be from a club that you like most people have not watched a lot of. We're gonna see a highlight compilation and be like, we're sold. I just don't think that there are the players in the profile that really make a ton of sense, that are really sticking out. And I think that's part of the reason that there's several contributing issues, but I think it's one of the reasons that there's not been a ton of concrete links is because I don't know who that's going to be. I think it's more likely that we just do the business, pay some of the money, and they pop
up. I was the only one really that has gripped me, and fully enough, it was one completely out of the blue, was the Brian and Bremo links that seemed to have died down a little bit, because that did make me quite excited, and I was thinking, yeah, that is an absolute type of player that could be an ex-Salah, that could be an ex-Mane, that is Premier League proven, that does look an absolute monster. That's the only one really for me, I think, this window where I thought, oh yeah, and I would have thought I would have been wanting the centre back or a left back or a six, but actually that's the one that I was like, oh, I really do hope that there's some legs in that one. That would be the one for me. Dan, anything caught your eye this summer that you want to hold on to, that you want to think, okay, this is hopefully has legs, and I could see it working?
For me, I know it's kind of a meme and kind of a joke. Mine was always Aurelien Tchouameni, because I'm like, if you could ever get him out of Madrid, that would be the one you just bank, you lease, you take a second mortgage on Anfield to try and get done, because like that's your center defensive mid essentially filled out. Because I think what Colin mentioned is also important to remember is that we're gonna play with two mids. Like this is gonna be much more of 4-2-3-1. It's gonna be two center mids next to each other. And if you think about what type of six, I hate to say the six because it's so reductive about what coaches want midfielders to do. No one is a pure six anymore. Or let me phrase that. A lot of what a pure six has changed so much, mostly because of Guardiola and Klopp with Fabinho and Rodri, and also Fernandinho to some degree. What Liverpool want is that they want a second Stefan Bajcetic, because if you think about Bajcetic, is that he's young, he's 6'2", 6'3". He can play with the ball, he can dribble, he can carry, he can defend, he can block, he has good anticipation. that's who the dream number 6 is for Liverpool right now. It's Stefan Bajcetic. And unless someone comes in or someone that is available that they want, that they know can start right away, and you can play next to Bajcetic, or is significantly better right now, and you can kind of ride for 2 to 3 years and let Bajcetic develop some more, which I think is just Tchouaméni, because like every other midfielder out there, I don't get excited for. Manu Ugarte, beast of a player, not a great passer of the football. You bring him into Liverpool, you're just going to have the same issue with that we saw at the end, I think, with Wataru Endo, where teams are just going to give him the ball and make him beat him by passing the ball. And I think Wataru Endo's decent on the ball, but I think you've seen that how teams have adapted to when he played. For me, the one player that I've really been excited about the entire summer was probably Bakayoko, just because I think if you buy Bakayoko, I agree with you on the Mbeumo point. I think Mbeumo is the real deal. I think if Arsenal were half as smart as they think they are, they would bet the house on trying to get Brian Mbeumo on that team, because he's an option to Saka. He scores. His goal scoring is probably not as good as Saka's records now, but he is on the cusp of being of exploding, you would say, from a statistical standpoint. Now, last year he had the bad knee injury, but you can just see he's like Bournemouth's best player outside of Ivan Toney, and he would be a different option to what Arsenal have. I think the fact that Arsenal are going for some like Nico Williams, where they have like already a Nico Williams there called Gabriel Martinelli, I think it's a weird sign, because it just tells me that Arteta is going to play Havertz as a false 9 with Gabriel Jesus. So for me, I would say Bakayoko or Mbeumo are the two ones that I would be like you said, Richie, it's just like, if you get him in, that's your right side forward options fixed until you sell on like Diaz or Nunez or Salah. I would say most likely Salah than Diaz or Nunez, but that solves that problem. And Mbeumo's more of a starter that you could probably guarantee getting 10 goals out of, like a Jota. But I think Bakayoko for me would be like, if you can get him in, this sorts the problem. And it doesn't block Doak or Trent Doherty or Cade Gordon from developing, because you can make the argument, hey, he's coming in, but these next two forwards are going to be out the door in the next couple of years. Your Salahs, your Diaz, your Jotas, those who are like 27. Jota, I think now is 27. Diaz is 27. Salah is 32, 33 now. Is he 33? 31?
Yeah, though looking at his Instagram that he's posted today.
Yeah.
Oof.
Well, I just mean in the sense of like you can make the argument that like those three youth players coming up, that you'll get your shot with this new team, even if you buy a Bakayoko or an Mbeumo.
And it's almost like as well for Ben Doak is like, we don't want to stunt his growth, and same as Cade Gordon as well and Trent. But we do, I don't want to call it a stopgap, but essentially would be until Ben Doak, who we all think is going to be sensational, can then start to play. And then Mbeumo like moves towards the prime twilight of his career, but then Doak's coming through as well. So there's your succession plan put in place. And for me, it just makes sense for an Mbeumo type player. Okay, I mean, listen, we're not going to go on for too much longer, because people are going to want to go and watch the Belgians play the Romanians. So we're not going to go on for much longer. But if, final thoughts, you could sign any player, and Dan, you probably already said the Tchouaméni. Again, I'm going to give everyone carte blanche, because there's no point in being realistic at this point, because we don't know how much that Liverpool have got to spend. But if you could bring one player in to make the biggest impact for Liverpool, who would it be and why? And please, everybody else, I don't care if you could put Mbappe in the chat if you want. Okay, even though he's going to Madrid, so do try and make it semi-realistic. In the case of Mbappe, probably not going to happen. Tchouaméni, there is a very slim chance it could happen. But feel free, guys, to put your comments into the chats too. So we're looking for one player who can make the most impact next season. And again, not really bothered about realism for now, because there's not really any realistic links as we've sort of gone through. Dan or Colin, it's up to you. I really don't mind who would like to go first.
Colin, you can go first.
So mine is one of two Real Madrid boys, and it is Tchouaméni or it is Camavinga. I think Camavinga would be outrageous for us. I think and that would give him the ability to be a midfielder rather than getting put it back up, right back, or wherever they like to put him, which is not where he likes to play. either one would make me thrilled. Yeah, that's my unrealistic choice.
Nice. Paul's gone for Vinny. And I didn't even say you had to sell Lucho. You could have kept him if you want, but he's going to sell Lucho anyway. Sam's saying Rodrigo. Jamie is saying Musiala, and Toyota owner. It's not based on anything about that FSG might or might not do. It's your chance. You've got this money. Who do you want to bring in?
I would make an argument, and I think it's the most unrealistic. I just don't think. I think for the few, I think it's more something that's not going to happen just due to emotional factors. I would go sign Levi Colwill from Chelsea. It's not going to happen because Chelsea are run by Todd Bowley, who's already kind of manic. But Chelsea are dumpster fire right now. Like, they literally just hired Leicester's manager, who might do a good job. The thing about Wirtz, though, is that I wouldn't sign Wirtz because you're essentially just recreating the Dominic Szoboszlai problem. Coop Miners he's fine, but I don't think he's anything special. Musiala, I think, is a good shout, but again, I think he suffers from the Kai Havertz problem of he doesn't really have a position. Like, are you playing him as a 10 or a false 9 or a forward? He's not really fast for a forward. He's technical, so he's more of a 10. But, we have other players that can play a 10, and you could argue maybe fit our system better. Paul says Levi Colwell's crap. I'm not buying Colwell because of how he played in Chelsea's team. I'm saying because I think Levi Colwell is the best English center back that's coming up right now. Like, so if you can buy the next left-sided English center back, who's, I think he's 21, could be 22, who has played with Roberto De Zerbi's Brighton, is good on the ball. Yes, Chelsea are crap, but I don't use Chelsea as a metric to judge any footballer. I'm sorry, I just don't. Like, we've seen enough examples to know that Chelsea is just a madhouse, and any player that goes there, as with Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, and Colwell, immediately looks a lesser version of when you saw them before, which is hilarious to buying Jean Durand, because he might be great, but, I think Colwell will be the one to get because it solves the center back problem. It solves the homegrown problem. You don't fill out a spot. It gives you flexibility in the market. And essentially you have, let's say, a Kwanzaa, Levi Colwell double center back partnership for the next 12 years. Like, that solves every problem that you need and defense for the next couple of years with Owen Beck at left back, because I'm not putting Joe Gomez at left back. We're not doing Gareth Southgate part 2 by putting a right-footed center back on the left side and then asking where's the width.
Yeah, and who's putting the balls into the box? Yeah, absolutely. I tend to agree with Paul. I'm not saying that he's a better prospect than Colwell, but he's probably the one that I would actually go out and get. I was really impressed with him in his debut season, as I was impressed with Colwell in his debut season as well. And again, you're looking at Colwell when he was playing at left back again. At times for Chelsea, this is not really his natural position. You want to be playing him as a left centre back. So again, I don't think you can judge Colwell on last season's return, but yeah, it'd be Braithwaite for me only based on we need a centre back, and again, he's a young centre back. He's tall, he's aggressive. I've been really, really, really impressed, and also it means that he doesn't play for Everton or Manchester United, who are in for him too. So you get 3 things for the price of one, really. There. Thank you all of you for joining us, and as I say, we are going to wind down because the 8 o'clock kickoff is impending that we all want to go and see after Belgium took a Tonkin in that first round. They're going to have to come out swinging. And I have Lukaku captain in my fantasy team as well. So there is a slight interest from there. I threw my phone across the room when that second goal got disallowed last time. So I'm hoping not for the same again. But yeah, thanks all for joining us. Go and grab yourself a drink. Go and enjoy its glorious sunshine for once here in England. It does look like summer has finally arrived. So I hope that everybody can go out and enjoy the sunshine. And it does look like summer's upon us. So thank you all to Dan, to Colin, and for everybody else. Over 4,000, nearly 5,000 you on the stream joining us. So thank you so much for giving up your time and listening to us on the Saturday Night Club. We've been LFC Transfer Room. We'll be here every single day of the week at 7 o'clock until the Euros are on. Thanks all for joining us. Stay safe, take care, and as always, up the Reds.